Hey, what's up? My name is Sinister Skater. Welcome to the channel and welcome to Worst to Best, the series where I rank each weapon class from worst to best and touch on the strengths and weaknesses of each weapon in the game after I achieve diamond camo on a weapon class, of course. In this episode, we're going to be going over the Groza Assault Rifle in the Mac-10 SMG from Season 1 in our very first spin-off episode of Worst to Best. And by spin-off, I mean we're going to be doing the same thing as we always do. I'll be doing a little review going over the strengths and the weaknesses of both the weapons. Then after, I'll be plugging each of them into their respective worst to best list among their peers from the original Assault Rifle and SMG episodes. I figure I'd try this way out. People have asked me to rank these weapons, and this way seemed better than redoing an entire video or doing a seasonal revision like I've done a few times in the past. So let me know what you guys think about this format for post-launch weapons. I may be bringing it back in similar situations in the future, so let's see what you think. I want to start off with the Groza, but y'all are forcing me to do this. Look at the graph right here. 98% of my watch time comes from people who are not subscribed to the freaking channel. So if you watch my videos and are not subscribed, hit the darn button. Pretty please, I didn't mean to come off that aggressive. And turn on notifications so you don't miss the upcoming worst to best. But let's dive into the Groza Assault Rifle. It is an average damage but fast firing AR, which makes for a deadly time to kill at all ranges. For comparison, if you're getting body shots at mid range, you're looking at a 320 millisecond time to kill, which is only beat by the AK-47 at 300 milliseconds. And for headshots, you're looking at a 240 millisecond time to kill, which is again only beat by the AK at 200 milliseconds. So it's a top tier weapon when it comes to damage. The other perks of the Groza, however, are it has the fastest bullet velocity amongst the AR, which is huge. It has the fastest aim down sight speed amongst the ARs, which is also huge. And other than the FFAR, the Groza has a slightly faster reload speed than all of its peers, which are all great stats to shine in because they play critical roles in weapon performance. The one big drawback though is that the Groza has a lot of recoil. It pulls up hard, there's a back and forth recoil pattern, which is consistent, but it will mess with your aim, and I highly recommend that you mitigate the recoil as much as possible with the Spetsnaz foregrip and a muzzle attachment like the agency suppressor. With attachments, you will still have to do some adjustment by countering down and left with your aim to fight its recoil, but it's actually a usable weapon, and it's actually pretty competitive, unlike the FFAR's recoil, which still, when you try to mitigate it, it's just kind of all over the place. Other than that, though, I mean, the Groza has the lowest base range between the ARs, which isn't a big deal because it shares this with the FFAR and the AK-47, and that low range isn't holding the AK back from being a monster. It also shares like the same movement speed, the same sprint to fire, and hip fire as others. So it has a lot going for it, minus the drawback of the recoil. So where would I rank the Groza on my assault rifles list? My original list, if you guys don't remember, it was the AK-47 at the best, followed by the XM4, the QBZ, the Krig, and then the FFAR at worst. And if I had to rank the Groza, I think it slots in at a solid second best spot. I still think the AK-47 is more versatile as one of my favorite weapons in the game. For one, you can full-on spray the AK-47 at range, which the Groza will struggle with because of its recoil. And in most situations, the Groza has the second fastest time to kill behind the AK. But I really like the Groza because it fills the niche that the FFAR failed to properly fill, which is that fast-firing, fast-killing assault rifle that has some recoil, but it's actually good and usable beyond the closest ranges. It really reminds me of the Black Ops 1 FAMAS, which you may know is one of my favorite weapons of all time, which is funny because the FFAR failed at doing that, even though it's literally the FAMAS from Black Ops 1. But the Groza shreds. I like it. Moving on to the Mac-10. Similar to the Groza, the Mac-10 is your true fast-firing archetype of SMGs. Before, the MP5 was fast, but it wasn't similar to like the Scorpion Evo or the Spitfire SMG from previous Black Ops games. This thing spits bullets and shreds enemies. I'd say about 75% of the time on paper when we're looking at time to kill, the Mac-10 beats out all the other SMGs. I know for one, the MP5 will beat it out in some of the mid-range gun battles, and the AK-74U will outgun it in the closest of ranges, unless you're getting like all headshots with the Mac-10, I believe. If we're solely looking at time to kill, the Mac-10 is towards the top of its class. As for other stats, it's pretty much the same for everything except for reload. It has the fastest reload between the SMGs at 2 seconds, like looking at just over a second if you reload cancel, which is amazing, especially for a run and gun weapon like this. But it also has the slowest muzzle velocity, which is tied with the KSP at slowest in the game, which it can be problematic, especially when you start moving into longer ranges. And it also has very strong vertical recoil, which also makes it hard to use at long range. So like the Groza here, you definitely want to use recoil mitigating attachments, and when you have the lowest recoil possible with this weapon, you shouldn't have much of a problem using it though, unless you're getting to the long range, again, where this weapon starts to fall off. You could use it towards the longer ranges for SMGs, but it's just more challenging to use than the other weapons. I think that's pretty much all to say about the Mac-10. The one last thing I want to note is that the task force barrel may be appealing because it says it increases damage, but when it actually comes to damage boosting, it really doesn't do anything for your time to kill, and it adds a bunch of recoil, so steer away from that attachment. But where would I rank the Mac-10 is what you're asking. The original SMG list had the AK-74U at best in the #1 spot, followed by the MP5, then the Bullfrog, then the Milano, and then the KSP-45 at worst. And like the Groza, I think the Mac-10 fits in at a solid second spot. Some people may think this is the best SMG in the game, which I find understandable, but the AK-74U I think is more versatile than the Mac-10 because it has the fastest bullet velocity between the SMGs and low recoil. Plus, it'll be outgunning the Mac-10 in close quarters combat unless the Mac-10 user is hitting all headshots on you. But I will tell you, with the introduction of the Mac-10, the AK-74U and the Mac-10 is really the only two SMGs that you need, and the only two SMGs that I'll be using. MP5, really not attractive anymore. Bullfrog, Milano, KSP. I mean, most of these have some niche uses, but AK and Mac-10, that's the two guns that I'm going to be using when I need to use an SMG. But what do you think, either for the Groza or the Mac-10? As always, you're encouraged to leave your own list down below in the comments, and I think it'd be cool to see some full best to worst lists, because maybe the additions of these new weapons may have changed the way you personally rank the weapon classes. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to help support the channel. Check the links down below in the description. That's it. Peace.